Hi there, this is Erik Hawkins, but please call me Hawk. I'm a course instructor and author for Berklee Online, and we're here today to talk with the amazing and talented Hilton Deuce Wright. Hilton, great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
We want to talk about all of your amazing production techniques, and in particular, the types of things you're doing with Reason 8, since I know that's your main shtick there.
Yeah.
Right. So, but let's start with giving us a little bit of background. Where did you get started using Reason 8, and how did you get started playing music?
Well, my start in music dates back to probably infancy, and I loved Michael Jackson as a kid and still do to this day. And that translated into singing in the church choir and playing in band at school. I played alto saxophone about fourth grade till I graduated from high school. And it was in high school where I started experimenting with making beats and doing production. And my cousin and I were actually rapping at the time, and we were rapping and producing our own songs. And I discovered Reason from a friend in high school. I went over his house. He was a fellow producer. I liked his production. I asked him to do a track on an album we were working on. And I went by his place, and I think he might have told me about Reason beforehand. But when I went by to see it, it just blew my mind. I loved the interface. That was the main thing that sold me. And it was Reason 2 or 2.5 at the time.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah. So definitely like 2003, 2004. But, ever since then, the rest is history, and I've grown with the program, and so.
Tell us a little bit about some of the artists you're working with these days, and, maybe where we might be able to hear some of those sounds that you're producing in Reason on the tracks that are being released.
These days, I actually just finished working with a new Latin artist. I'm excited about. Her name is Sophia Reyes, and she's signed to Prince Royce. So did a couple songs on her album that I wrote and co-produced. So excited about that, and I think that'll be coming out top of 2015. In addition to that, I also do a lot of work composing original music for advertising and TV and film, and recently just did a Ford spot that'll go to air at the end of this year, top of 2015. And all of that was done in Reason as well. So there's a lot of everything that, comes out has Reason in it. And one thing I love about Reason is the easiness of collaborating.
Right.
Yeah, so.
All right, just make sure all your samples are self-contained. And
exactly.
You can be emailing that back and forth to your co-writer.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's the best thing out there for collaboration, in my opinion.
So I understand you use a lot of templates to get started working, which is a great way to work,
right.
Especially when you're a busy producer and you got to be knocking out those hits all the time.
Yeah.
Right, so can you share some with us?
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at some of your templates, if you don't mind sharing them with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And see what you're using to get those hits in order fast.
This is my main default template for every time I launch Reason. This is what I'll see. And just to give you a basic overview, starting at the mixer, I have 5 audio tracks where I can lay down quick vocal ideas. So I'll have a lead vocal, and then if I hear any backgrounds, I can easily just lay those down. It's just a stack of 4 going into a bus, and they're already individually panned, hard left and hard right. And that can be for either harmonies or a stack. It depends. Sometimes it might only be 3 that I'll use, and I'll keep 1 in the middle.
You got them set up and grouped together and a sub-mix channel for easy level control.
Yep, exactly. And I love the fact that you can quickly and easily, throw everything to a bus in Reason now. And I already have it labeled for, lead vox. Sometimes that might be a really quick guitar. You can easily just change it. But it's now that we have audio, and I guess for some time have had it in Reason, I just have to have that in there. Over the years prior to the audio, it's just amazing how many, melodies that I wasn't able to lay down that I think about now, because I don't think there's a track that I might start writing where I don't have some type of, melody idea, and I'll just start writing the song as I'm working on the music. So yeah, have to have that.
So is that something you sing in yourself oftentimes before you?
With Neptune, yeah.
With Neptune,
with
okay,
lots of
that's
Neptune.
Great.
It turned all the way up. Yeah,
very cool.
I would definitely not call myself a singer, but I can hold the note.
You get the melody out there, so you can be writing
absolutely.
around it.
Yeah, and then I always have either a co-writer who sings, who come in and do the demo, or have a demo singer come in and make me sound better.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's the secret.
Yeah, with Neptune, you can sing anything, right?
Exactly.
Just play those notes in and
Exactly. And then I'll flip over to the sequencer and the rack. And it's always on the piano. This was the piano patch that I was speaking of. And it says Deuce's piano.
Let's go take a listen to it.
Yeah.
Is it?
And it's pretty standard, you know. Just has a little large room ambience to make it sound like I sat down in a booth and, you know, just was going away at an idea. But I love Radical Piano. Before this, this default template has evolved over the years, and if you were to look back maybe, you know, 3 years, it would look totally different because it was Reason pianos, and that was cool. And like I said, I still use that today, but this is my go-to now. In addition to that, we have the new A-list electric guitars, rack extension. Loving this, and I'm loving the acoustic one. This way I can just quickly punch in something, punch in a progression, and I just love the versatility with these. And so it's just like having a piano and a guitar laying around in the studio. You know, that's what I envisioned with it. This is my custom Kong.
Yeah, I see you've got your own little custom backdrop there on the Kong. That's nice.
Absolutely, yeah.
I like the logo.
Thanks. Yeah, so I had to put the Wright Tracks logo on the Kong. And for Kong, what I did was I just have a compressor on the master effects that I can choose to turn on if I need to, just to, you know, sum everything, give it a nice glued sound. And what I've done is I've changed the level of each pad to 115. And I think what I was doing was kind of guesstimating from what I heard where the preview level was in the browser.
Okay.
And so every time I scrolled through different sounds, they were sounding louder in the browser than they were when I actually loaded it in. So I just went and when I did my default, turned these up so it would kind of match.
Right. Yeah, that's because the browser's playing it at full volume.
Right.
As opposed to you've got the dynamics that you're playing. If you're playing it from a keyboard or even on the pads, you know, the pads in Kong at the bottom of the pad,
right,
it plays
they go
it soft
up in
and
velocity.
then it plays louder on the top.
Absolutely.
So I see you've got a pad selected, but you don't have a sound in there right now.
Right. And what I'll do, I'll always just load in from the N and Nano sampler, because that way it keeps the level settings that I have up here. Opposed to if I was to load a sound from here, would just reset that. But one thing that I've done is I've named each pad according to general MIDI mapping. Mm-hmm. So that way, if there was a MIDI file that I wanted to load into the Kong, into the sequencer, I try generally to load every drum sound according to the maps that I've laid out here. So if I ever just want to switch it up or load in a patch for the whole Kong, it makes sense. And that's probably been one of the biggest helpers in my template.
Of course, in Reason 8, we've got the new browser, so we can drag
Right.
and drop things.
Right.
So you can drag and drop samples directly from the library
Exactly.
into your NNXT, or
Right.
I believe you can drag and drop on pads as well.
Right, you can drop on pads and you can drop right in the Nano sampler.
Can we show folks how that's done?
Absolutely. Let's see. I still love how they have the drums sorted from the redrum kits.
Mm-hmm, yeah, the exclusive drum sorted. That's
Right.
great.
And this is a great 808 that I've used in a lot of tracks. And just drag it in right there. And it's so quick and easy. And of course, you can go back and if you wanted to layer a sound and
Drag it right
sometimes
on top of a pad.
Right, exactly. And so I'll put this on low tom. And I always try and just keep that basic
So the name of
philosophy.
the pad is low tom. And
Right.
then you just drag in your low tom.
Right.
And then you know where it is on your keyboard because
Exactly.
it's all mapped out starting from C1 on up the keyboard.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to adhere to those general MIDI mapping settings because it just helps with, you know, a MIDI file that I might want to load in. And I love using random drum MIDI files and instruments as well. So.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's a cool tip. But yeah, the drag and drop is working great.
Right. That makes it just so easy to just want a sound, just throw it on, check it
Right,
out.
right.
And there's a whole bunch of different places. I mean, you showed how we can drag it onto a pad. You showed how we can drag it into the sampler.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the actual patch itself, too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
fantastic. So what else do you have in this template?
Let's see. I'll go up and show the effects. So I have a default mastering template that I'll use, and it's pretty stock. I'm just cutting all the lows below 30, and then for the stereo image, I'm turning up. I guess this is right around 3.47 kilohertz is where I have the crossover. So just widening like those highs just a little bit. And then for the compressor and maximizer, just really light compression, 2-to-1 ratio. And so I'll turn this on pretty much, I want to say, maybe like halfway or 3/4. I won't wait until the end. It all depends. Once it really starts feeling good, then I want to get an idea of what it sounds like. And that's kind of like my same philosophy with the master bus compressor. Because I know in the UK, usually in the mixing process, they'll start with it on. Here in the US, it's kind of the thing that's, at the end of it, you turn it on. So I said, let me adopt both of those, and I just turn it on, halfway through.
I'm always just telling students to make sure you watch your levels, because if you've got something like the master compressor on or the maximizer or something, you're not actually getting a true indication of what your levels are. You could be clipping, but you might not actually see it on your main output.
Right.
And so before you turn that on, just make sure your
Right.
levels are good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll usually, or with the master bus compressor, this will usually be a thing that I do, like I said, midway, but flipping back over to the rack. I'll usually do the insert effects for the master, definitely more towards the end. Once it's really, done and I have a solid verse and chorus, depending on the type of track and what it's for, this is probably more towards the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then after that, I have 2 reverbs set up. One is a short plate that I'll use for vocals. The other one is just default RV7000 initialized patch. And I mean, I love that. That's probably on everything.
Yeah.
That's my standard
Nice
go-to.
reverb.
Yeah.
And you just have the initialized patches on there. It's like you can drag and drop new patches on if you want.
Right.
You're going, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can definitely drag on the patches, which is also cool. And these are like standard that I'll use. I'll flip back over to the mixer, just showing them over here. And then I have a quarter note delay, which I just love on vocals. Just having a standard quarter note delay.
Quarter note delay. Okay.
Yep. Then I'll have a scream, if I want any distortion. And then I also have a reverb and a delay for Kong. So if we take a look at these, here they are. If we take a look at these, they are routed for Kong, the aux sends. So if I have a sound and want to turn up reverb or want to turn up delay.
Oh, gotcha.
And so it's in addition to, the effects here, because like I said, I love the RV7000, just, initialized patch.
So is that a separate reverb unit that you have hooked in just for Kong?
Yep, just for Kong. And so you can see it here, the Kong aux 1 reverb, and then the delay, still a quarter note delay. And then I have the echo, which is serving as another delay. So just a different flavor, because with this quarter note, sometimes I'll find, I might want to have maybe like a triplet type of delay.
Right.
That's what I have this down here for.
You got a lot more options with the echo in terms of the time signature of the delay, or if you want to say add a filter to the delay, you can't do that just in the regular old DDL1.
Right, yeah. So, but the DDL1 has definitely served me well. Echo is awesome, and I love the roll feature and the trigger.
Yeah.
You get a lot of damage done with
sweet.
those. Yeah, especially for transitional effects, you need something. And sometimes I find myself putting this for the insert effects on the master whenever I'm transitioning between a verse and a chorus. You can always come up with cool, creative ways to transition.
Using the roll.
Right, using the roll or the trigger.
Cool.
Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. And let's see. we scroll down some more, putting our focus back here in the rack. I also have a redrum hooked up to Kong, and this is strictly for step sequencing. So it's handling all 16 channels. This is, as you can see, I have it labeled 1 through 10, and then this is 11 through 16. Because I love step sequencing, especially for hi-hats. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes might want a real 80s mechanical type of beat.
Can you show everybody the back of that? I know.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's not using redrum for its sounds. He's just using Kong for the sounds, and he's using the step sequencer, redrum step sequencer, and plug those gate outputs all into Kong to trigger those sounds.
Right, exactly. And it's beneficial to have it in my default template because that way, I don't have to drag these gate out CV into the inputs for each individual pad each time. So I use this all the time, like I said, especially for hi-hats. And sometimes I'll get hi-hats or shakers, some type of rhythmic element in Dr. Octorex, but a lot of times it's just at least getting the basic sketch out here.
Right.
And I hardly will use pads 11 through 16, but it's just there, to have it.
Right. Oh, I see. So you got another one hooked up for the other.
Right, because this can only cover 10.
10, and then there's 16 pads.
Right.
Another 6 on there.
Right. Yeah, so I usually just have this one folded.
Can you drop a little hi-hat pattern in there for us?
Yeah.
So you do that?
Let's see. So, once again, if we pull back up, I'll go into Kong.
So isn't it, now this is, if you click on the browser, it'll automatically load in the proper factory sound bank.
Right. So if I was to go, let's say, pedal hat, and click
there, boom. It becomes orange. That way we know that we can just drop things on there.
Mode.
Yeah, right. So you don't have to actually click through all the individual libraries and folders in there and just bam, right there like that.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And so it brought us back to where we previously were, which was the kick drums. And if I just go up and grab a hi-hat, this served the purpose. And so now this is on 9. Once again, it's pedal hat, and come down to select 9, and we'll just load in something very basic here and get to running. I'll turn the click off. And so I have it on 32 steps. So load in something.
So you got a lot of resolution there to work with.
Exactly.
You like little 30-second note trills.
Right. Well, the resolution default is 16, but absolutely whenever it's time to load in, and do maybe some trap type of hi-hats, that allows us to easily do that. Yeah, and just continuing scrolling down here. And last but obviously not least is Dr. Octorex, probably the secret weapon in the arsenal. I love Dr. Octorex, especially when they introduced the Octo feature with all 8 prior to the A-list acoustic. This is how I did a lot of chord progressions for guitars. If I just wanted to have a guitar to write to, just switching in between those, triggering the next loop according to the bar or beat was something that, was pretty standard for me.
So you were just using the guitar Rex loops that were in the factory library, and the chord strums, or the wah-wah guitars.
Right. Yeah, there was an acoustic strumming refill, which I think was later incorporated into the factory sound bank. So, and I have a lot of tracks where, I still have some of those in it. One big secret, thing that I do is I'll often have
well, it's not a secret anymore, right?
Right. Yeah, I'll pretty much always use this for some type of drum beat or percussion, and if we wanted to just load this in, and I always love oscillating or modulating the pan with the LFO. And so I usually keep it on triangle if I'm going for something really crazy, but just always, gives that nice stereo feel by turning up the pan according to this LFO. And so with something percussion, whether it's hi-hats or a bongo loop or even a break beat, I'll always turn that up. So it just gives a really nice feel to that type of stuff.
Cool. Yeah, it keeps the loop interesting too if it's panning back and forth as opposed to just being static right in the middle of speakers, and you're just going to get a little fatigued on it.
Exactly, yeah. And so I find myself doing that using Pulsar now, routing it to the pan.
Pulsar is great for that.
Exactly, yeah. So with like an acoustic guitar that might be in an audio track and I want to get that same feel, or maybe it's an audio drum loop, I'll use Pulsar to do that now.
Is that something we could show people how to do?
Yeah,
Just drag it in?
And actually, we could probably make one of these audio and drag it in.
Oh, so you can drag, it's worth noting that you can drag in those tracks.
Right.
The Rex loops directly to an audio track as well.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be in a Dr. Octarex player.
Right. And so here we just drag this Rex loop and now it's audio.
The other one's playing too.
So yeah, we'll kill this one. But if I wanted to, so sometimes, let's see, go over here to the rack extensions, the effects. Pulsar might be more of a utility, and it is.
Yep.
And taking the output of LFO1 into, I have to show the programmer.
Yeah, that was something they changed recently, and
Right.
people couldn't find it for a while.
Yeah, right.
Was that reason 7.5? I think it was.
Yeah, and I'll still get lost sometimes as well.
It's like, where'd it go? Oh, there it is.
Exactly. So I love the indicator of the light,
Mm-hmm.
and so the tempo sync is default. So turn this up and start to get real wacky with it. So that's, like we said, just keeping the loop interesting. It's just always a cool thing to do. And love time stretching.
Yeah.
So quick and easy.
Nice. So what key are you holding down to do the time stretch?
Command excuse me.
So it changes.
It's option actually.
It changes the tool.
Right.
To
the time stretch tool.
To the time stretch tool. So you can just grab the end of the audio loop.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's helpful because sometimes you might browse through the library and find a loop that it sounds like, it'll fit perfectly in your production, and it might just be a little bit off, and just taking that end of it and stretching it to that next bar or beat, and it's perfect without too much work at all. It just works, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Nice. Is there anything else you have in this template?
Yeah, so this is pretty much everything for this one, and I'll show another one that I use for when it comes time to track vocals. Usually I'll dump everything to a 2-track from the Reason file and then re-import it into a session to just record to a 2-track. Although now I have a newer computer and it has the processing file if I wanted to do the vocals, in the session along with all of the different rack extensions. It's just cleaner visually to just have that 2-track, just doing the vocals. I'm always mixing as I'm going along, writing the music. So I'll bounce that down to a 2-track.
So you use the export dialog in Reasons to bounce down the tracks?
Right, yeah, I'll use the export just
bounce loop or bounce song,
exactly.
whatever part.
So this is the basic track that I have for recording vocals. And what I've done is I've used blocks as a guide for where the different sections of the song are. So sometimes after maybe tracking the chorus, I'll go and take the chorus and put it in its block because that'll pretty much stay consistent. Sometimes, we might have some more riffs or improvisation on the second chorus, but that can stay outside in the main sequencer area. So usually I'll load in a track onto the music track. This is specifically for a 2-track WAV file, and then adjust these block lengths according to where it is, shift it over. That'll be the first thing I do. And like we were saying, now that we can drag and drop, it's awesome because before, if I just happened to have my cursor over here and went to File, Import Audio File to bring in an audio track, I'd have to undo that and bring the cursor back to 0 and then import it. But now what I love about importing audio, and obviously this wouldn't be like a full 2-track, but let's go to Dr. Rex instrument loops. Let's say synth loop. If I wanted to just bring this in, boom, right there. And so I love that. So yeah, I'll have everything on this instrument track. I have a lead vocal track, and then these are actually going to a bus. So get rid of this guy here and pull up the mixer. So lead vocal, and really this second track is just meant for if there needs to be a part that's punched in. It's still a lead vocal, but maybe, you know, a word is running together. And it has its own bus, which is going to an all Vox bus, and an ad-lib track.
So you're using the blocks automation lane up there, using that for basically song markers.
Right,
You're not
pretty much,
actually
yep.
you're not actually in the blocks mode.
Right.
But you can tell when you're recording like how long the section is that you're recording.
Exactly.
Gotcha. That's great.
And it's a typical structure. You know, the chorus will double twice at the end, bridge, breakdown, and this is all adjustable.
Right, because it's all color coded because you have the blocks automation on.
Right.
When you turn off the blocks automation, then the color coding goes away, which is not so cool. But you want the color coding there so you can actually see the vertical integration of those song sections.
Right. Yeah. And I always will keep a piano because, you know, I always have to find the key of the song.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Or, you know, have to tell a singer what the right note is.
Right.
So I'll always have that, and that helps. And what I've done is I've labeled each one of these tracks, so it allows me to go and record for the chorus lead vocal, the verse backs high. So I have them grouped already. If we shoot back over to the mixer, see verse high has its own bus, verse mids, verse lows for any harmonies, and that goes
so
for the
3-part
chorus.
harmonies, and then they're all submixed with
Right.
their own level control.
Right, and sometimes with the chorus, you know, it'll be more 4 for stacks. So these are all color grouped according to the specific harmony, and that harmony will be stacked that many times.
Very organized.
Yeah, so I mean, especially when you're dealing with R&B and pop vocals, it can be a lot. So being as organized as you can is important. And then at the end, just for fun, I have a radio phone filter, a distortion, and pitch down. So, you know, for the slurred type of low sounds that we hear in hip hop a lot today, and then distortion. And
so is that an effect or something you run on those?
Right, yeah, so it's an effect.
Insert?
Show the insert effect.
Neptune?
Yeah, so I have Neptune, and I'll probably switch this to polar, but you can see I have it transposed down by 12 semitones. And then for the distortion, I think up here on the mixer, I have a scream, and so this is going to the scream at full level.
A send effect to the scream. Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah. So showing the scream here, and it's a basic patch that's on there, fuzz, and maybe we could load some vocals in there just to get an idea for what that sounds like.
Yeah, that'd be great. So then once you have all these vocals tracked, then you export them as a stereo mix so that you can work with them in another session file?
Right. Well, I'll usually mix the vocals down. For the most part, I'm recording demo vocals, which is me and another songwriter top lining to the track. And so I'll mix the vocals here, and that'll be the working demo that we're shopping. But I have cut some songs that will be coming out. Actually, some of the vocals for Sophia Reyes were recorded in Reason for a song I did with her called Puedes ver pero no tocar. So that was done in Reason using this template. So yeah, you can do it here, and it was mixed elsewhere, but with using these, same principles and even the comping in Reason is great. And I don't
Right.
know, I think it's the easiest that I've seen amongst all the other DAWs. And that helps when working with an artist, just, having them loop a certain part and going back and finding the best ones. They make comping fun, if you can
Right.
make something that tedious fun,
Right.
it's easy to do.
You mean in the comp edit mode?
Right,
Right.
exactly, exactly.
Gotcha. So let's take a look at some of the tracks that you brought here today
Okay.
and open them up and see how they're all laid out and what you
Okay.
got going on them and how you're using A-list guitar and
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Cool.